another edition of Grown Folks Business. It's a beautiful Thursday.
Can I tell you, it's still, to Andre's point, Jay Dwayne's point, it's still so prevalent. And I know I'm tired. I can't imagine what you guys are like being in that skin and like, damned if you do, damned if you don't.
And wholeness. I want to live a life without any lack. And that's my ultimate desire. And it's really about inventory, if you will.
Whatnot. And you get really busy and you get on a train track that just carries you through a number of years.
We shared with mom and family that, we won't be there. We won't be home every Christmas. With birthdays, that we'll celebrate. We'll call, we'll celebrate, but it might not be on that day.
All right, welcome to another edition of Grown Folks Business. It's cold, y'all. It's been cold this week. It's been a brick, as I like to say. It's been a brick to the face a couple of days. If you get up early enough, you might not be able to breathe correctly. The air is rare. It is thin and it is cold and it hits your lungs and it's like, whoa. So those of you who have survived this, I'm going to say unreasonably cold weather, because I don't know if it's global warming or what, but North Carolina kind of was turning into a place where you could just depend on the mildness. But glad to be here. Another episode of Grown Folks Business with a couple of the usual suspects and a returning champion, Mary Carmen, who joins us again this week. Glad to have you. Jay Dwayne, good to see you as always. Salute. Celeste, I know you have your camera off, but I also know you're there and you're interacting and listening and ready to engage on this topic. And Kaylee, I thank you for controlling what goes on behind the scenes, and I hope that you participate some this evening. I'm very much appreciating the generational piece to this puzzle, because we're talking about culture. Tonight's topic is yours, mine, ours. What is the culture to you? And I put the culture in quotation marks because part of the reason I was motivated to take on this topic was because I hear this way too frequently now when I'm listening to I won't say necessarily hip hop. I'll say urban. I'll say black American entertainment aspects, primarily when it comes to hip hop. I'll throw it up. Primarily when it comes to the most visible form of entertainment right now, I hear it for the culture a lot. I hear the culture, and I'm not sure that it's being utilized correctly. I'm not sure it applies in the way that they're thinking it applies. And it kind of sticks in my craw. And when something sticks in my craw, I got to put it in the grown folks business space. So I'm going to say I'll switch this up just a little bit and read the elongated definition of culture, like the Merriam-Webster one where you got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I want it to be understood in all of its nuance, how culture is actually defined, and how we'll discuss it, I think, will be influenced by this. So I'm going to read this whole broken out definition. Bear with me, please, and then we're going to have a good discussion. So culture, the customary beliefs, social forms, and material traits of a racial, religious, or social group. Also, the characteristic features of everyday existence, such as diversions or a way of life, shared by people in a place or time. Popular culture, Southern culture. B, the set of shared attitudes, values, goals, and practices that characterizes an institution or organization, a corporate culture focused on the bottom line. C, the set of values, conventions, or social practices associated with a particular field, activity, or societal characteristic, studying the effect of computers on print culture. Changing the culture of materialism will take time. That's Peggy O'Mara. Uh, D, the integrated pattern of human knowledge, belief, and behavior that depends upon the capacity for learning and transmitting knowledge to succeeding generations. Uh, Another definition: enlightenment and excellence of taste acquired by intellectual and aesthetic training. Another one: acquaintance with and taste in fine arts, humanities, and broad aspects of science, and distinguished form of vocational and technical skills. A person of culture. The act or process of cultivating living materials such as bacteria or viruses, and prepared nutrient media. Also a product of such cultivation. Cultivation, we ought to blame the culture, not the soil. That was Alexander Pope. The act of developing the intellectual, moral faculties, especially by education, expert care and training. So I read all that so that we could have a more fixed idea of what culture is, and even to the point of the scientific way of making sure you keep something alive for the purposes of utilizing it for something, virus, bacteria, the soil, culture the soil, nourish it, grow it, culture people, right? Culture people. So with all of that in mind, all of that being hopefully received as I intended, I want to start tonight's show with the question that's at the top of the bar. That, you know how we start here. Um, what is the culture to you? So when you think and when you hear the term the culture, what does it mean to you? I'm going to start with you, Celeste, since I made you come in here and be one of the generational pieces to this puzzle. So tell me what the culture.
Growing up as a Gen Zer, millennial, merge, whatever, for me, the culture has always been Black culture when we speak to American, even European culture. I mean, the culture is African culture, as in Nigeria, Ghana, Liberia, even going into Eastern Africa, Egypt, and Somalia. I mean, we spend entire chunks of history class learning about Egypt when most of us will probably never go there. I mean, Egyptian culture, as far as the jewelry, I mean, the eyeliner, what there was an entire phase in the 2000s where people seen what they thought were pictures and hieroglyphs of Egyptians and started doing deeply blackened winged eyeliner. I mean, for me, that's always what culture has been, is Black culture. Because what we do something in Black culture, 3 years later, it's mainstream and everybody thinks Kim Kardashian started a trend. I mean, culture is Blackness, in my opinion. I mean, think of the rappers started sagging, so now till this day, boys of all races wear pants in the middle of their thigh. And then there was a trend of colored and patterned underwear so that when you sag, you know, your butt looks more appealing. That's it. Started off as a quote unquote Black thing with the designer belts and the textured belts, and then when white boys started sagging their athletic shorts and XYZ, it still wasn't okay. I will never say that it became okay in any older society's eyes, but it turned into a mainstream thing. I mean, Justin Bieber sagged at one point. Like, culture is Blackness. Culture is whatever Black people do 2 to 3 years later becoming popular. Like, Kim Kardashian is honestly nothing but a black one, but a white woman perpetuating Black standards and making them mainstream. And then everybody thinks she started something. No, we've been doing that for generations. Like when she started wearing wigs and her hairstylist said, she asked her hairstylist, she said, "Do you think anybody will know it's a wig?" And he said, "Oh, Black people will know. It's the white people who will think that you dyed your hair."
So
Like,
let me ask you this,
that's culture.
not to derail your share. I
Go
want you
ahead.
to incorporate this aspect before I go to the next person. You think, based on what you're sharing with me, that trend setting is a high tier aspect of culture?
Not even, well, yes, trend setting, but the way that in America, the way that we move and the way that we do things as Black people goes, it's a culture. I mean, the way we speak. I mean, people try
That's
to
not the question. So that
well,
question is
go
coming
ahead.
next.
Ask it again.
Yeah, the next question is going to be what is American culture. So I want you to kind of think about the culture as you thinking of it, like you talking about it, but it sounds like trend setting. So I'm just asking if there's a difference, or do you prioritize trend setting?
I would say that for the culture for me comes from trend setting. I don't think that very many people develop the culture off of their own idea. I mean, shoot, even American democracy became a trend after the Romans and the Greeks did it first. Like for me, culture comes from taking somebody else's idea, changing it and tweaking it a little bit and trying to make it your own and then calling it original.
Gotcha. Okay. I like that. I just wanted to highlight the trend setting aspect. Jay Dwayne, coming to you next. The same question, and keeping in mind, because I like how we have this kind of cultured conversation. We got to kind of feed it. Got to put some water on it. Put one of them green sticks in there so the plant will grow. So we culturing this conversation. I like that you prioritize trend setting. What is the culture to you, Jay Dwayne?
It's funny because I was just watching. It was a reel/documentary, because you know how they have the break parts of the documentary, and a young lady used a phrase that was the first time I heard it, and she called it blackwashing. So when she said what Celeste said, she said it's funny how so many people will blackwash their experiences. And I was like, I've never really heard it in that way. And now I like it. I'm like, that's going to be in mind when she started talking about the Kardashians and all of that. But mine is not too different from Celeste in a sense of, I do think when I hear the culture, it's whatever I do look at culture as an umbrella, if you will. It's whatever is the highest shared behavioral trend at that time. And I do think that trend setting is a part of culture, but I think it's solidified after the behaviors are already present. So I feel like when you say the culture, it's whatever is popular at that time and that is commonly known by the majority at that time. And I think what happens now, you have some of us who are a little bit hipper than others. So when they hear certain terms that have been borrowed generationally, they're like, okay, what culture are we talking about? Which culture? And sometimes it causes a disconnect, especially if you're not current with what's going on in that moment.
There has to be some acknowledgement of who's doing what, and then how many people are doing it after. That's the trend setting. But when we think, when I hear the culture as well, instantaneously I'm programmed to look at what's being talked about, what's styles, like you said, sagging or whatever the case may be, tattoos, hairstyles, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But there's some more nuance to this, and we'll get to it, I hope. Mary Carmen, when you hear, I'm sorry, you say, Jay?
I wanted to clarify. I don't think that so much like fashion trends, sometimes they lump them in the culture. I don't think fashion is necessarily a cultural thing. I think it's more seasonal and more relative. I think it's the behaviors behind it more. So I look more at behaviors versus some of those other things that they sometimes throw in there, like soda and pop and heels versus not heels and those type things.
I dig that. And one of the things that I pay attention in that vein to, Jay, and why I bring fashion into it, you can sometimes look back at certain figures and you see that things kind of stop with them. And I was saying this, I like to say I was saying it before people were saying it, but people have begun saying it even more. Tupac is actually one of those figures where if you go get a picture of him and he's dressed, and I'm not talking about some of the ways he might have dressed that were a little bit more laid back. I'm talking about when he got suited up and what have you. It stands up, kind of like when you look back at the golden era 30s, 40s. Some of the people still pay homage to those trends that were set at another time and place. And you see somebody walking down the street and they might have on a suit where they look like Cab Calloway. You still kind of revere them, like, I might not be able to pull it off, but they rocking it. You get what I'm saying. So certain things kind of set a bar.
I'm gonna let Mary Carmen go, but yeah, I think like fashion is one of those things that can be shared, whereas culture is like one of those things that are here in that moment and that is present, and it usually evolves. Whereas fashion never really, you can say something is 1920s fashion, and whether it's 2024 or not, it's still going to be 1920s fashion. You see what I'm saying? Culture is like something that kind of evolves, and it may be culture today, maybe uncultured tomorrow.
Yeah,
kind of one of those things.
I'm definitely this is kind of what I wanted to go with some of this, and I'm not defending the style, because we know ain't no woman is dressing like a flapper from the 1920s, but you might see the guy who dresses flapper. The flapper was the woman with the little smooth hat on and the long one-piece dresses. Not too many that'll dress like a flapper without being at a party. A flapper was they did the little I forgot the name of the dance, but anyway, but you'll see men sometimes they'll have on that 3-piece suit that is a throwback, is a straight up throwback, and they're still pulling it off. It's not
with the tails.
What you say, Celeste?
With the tails, when they have the tucks and it has the two tails.
Yeah. It's still, they still pulling it off today. But I got what you're saying, Jay. Mary Carmen, coming to you. What does the culture mean to you?
Greetings, everyone. So, like you, I went and I did a research in Google I was curious to see what the definitions of several dictionaries meant. And I found one that I identify with a lot. And I think these 5 things really kind of can be a landmark or measured, if you will, of what culture could be. And it says the 5 things defined by culture definition is based on beliefs, norms, symbols like paintings, certain symbols, whether they are
she was getting
Mary Carmen, I hit the button on us. Kaylee, I was saving you for last. Primarily, here she goes. So she's back. Okay, yeah, go ahead, Mary Carmen. I was like, there, you were getting on the roll. So symbols, and you were talking about symbols.
Values and beliefs, norms, symbols, language, and rituals. Aspects of culture surrounding language includes body language, spoken word, and symbols, which are components of culture that are non-material. So if you take Chanel and Louis Vuitton and Nike, and you take all these brands that signify certain level of, culture or way, lifestyle characteristics of social forms in this organism, if you will, of every nation. And, you and I had that conversation before. The wording is the problem. The division is the problem. And so we all have a little culture. Yes, of course, because we're not equal. I mean, that's the diversity that is among the now, the present, the 2024. January 18 miracles. Every single day I've been living miracles. God is really, putting things where a generation, a town, cities, then counties, then the state, and then the nations and everything. And you can really begin to, see it around the world.
So you're speaking about actually witnessing culture evolve and change. So
yes,
that's pretty deep. So you're kind of paying attention to what came before and what's going on now. That's pretty deep. So yeah, I respect your position on that matter. That's a different way of observing, and I think so much is performative as well. So what's going to get me to noticed and what's going to have me fitting in. So if I join this culture of materialism associated with high value brands, then I'm doing something that's culture related, which again brings me to this term, the culture. So Kaylee, if you're able to participate, which I hope you are, because you are the youngest person on this call, you and your generation are what prompted me to desire to engage in this. So I was hopeful that you could participate. Are you there? Can you unmute?
Yes.
So Kaylee, how old are you again? 20?
I'm 19.
You 19. Oh my God. So yes. What is the culture to you? Because I know y'all talk about it. Y'all the ones that slang it and throw it around. Y'all be the culture, the culture. So tell me about the culture, please.
I don't know. I guess since I'm at a HBCU, I think of the culture as Black culture immediately. So, but like, I guess it could be for the same for everyone. But I think of like, I guess like morals and values and like how we were raised. Like most of our parents acted the same, and like I relate to people here. And then I guess I think of fashion trends and like the braids, the hair, I guess our music, but I also don't think of it as like our culture anymore because it's been shared and like people who aren't Black are using it. So I guess what Celeste was saying was right. It's just kind of like it's like a trend at this point. It's not really culture anymore. It's just whatever's trending, and it's not like sacred. Like the braids now, people who aren't Black are wearing braids. So I don't know. The culture to me just doesn't seem like the culture anymore.
I just want to add something to what Kaylee said, especially when it came to the braids. We share our culture, but people are legitimately ripping the hair out of their head to get box braids to participate in the culture. Like, people of different races harm themselves in an attempt to be a part of Black culture.
But then again, it's also scrutinized. I'm sorry if y'all can hear the sirens, but it's also scrutinized. So I don't know. They want to participate in the trend, but on the backhand, it's also being, talked bad about. So
Critically important is Kaylee. I give you so much credit and appreciation for your response, because that was inclusive of things that I don't think about when I think about your age group and your age bracket. But I know your mom. So I know you get some good foundational ways of processing and thinking about this world. So when you bring up certain values and things that are incorporated in how we are cultured, I so celebrate that, because that requires it forces you to disrupt the materialism and the infringement and disrespect that may be shown to things that were once understood to be near and dear and specific to a group of people. So the fact that you recognize that warms my heart. So we need to multiply you. We need you to talk to your friends and all that good stuff. Did you unmute to laugh? That's hilarious.
I did. I wanted you to hear a response.
I appreciate you letting me hear that. All right. So next question is, what is American culture? I kind of gave a preview of that question because I think there are some variations that need to be discussed in this thing. There's a lot more to this, and we've had discussions that touch on different aspects of what culture is and different things associated with how we perceive it or receive it or whatever the case may be. So, Jada Wayne, what is American culture? Do you have an answer to that question?
To Kaylee's response, thank you, Kaylee, because this is what I be arguing about. It's several young, brilliant minds that think like that. Felton is just ageist. It's several brilliant minds.
I had to ask you a question.
I'm so
ask you a
glad
question.
that she
You
came
come
over here.
shots for me, man. Come on, bro.
Because I was she actually came with some good shots. She was like, shots are fine. And I was just going to say, yeah. If she missed it, I wanted to say, I wanted you to hit right on the bullseye, because I'm glad she responded that way. I'm so proud, Kaylee.
I just said that, man. Get out of here, man.
Thank you.
Look, Jada Wayne came ready for you, Felton.
And
He
I
was
ain't even gonna
get
give
you.
credit to her mama. I'm gonna be like, Haley, you did that on your own. They always be trying to pass it to somebody. Why she can't be brilliant on her own? That's what them old people be doing, man.
Because somebody had to culture her.
Haley, what HBCU are you at?
I go to Howard.
Look, come on now, baby. We love a good bison. Come on now, baby.
Yep, I'm just glad she had an HBCU. But to answer this question about American culture is nothing but appropriation at its finest, and sometimes stealing. And then we try to act as if it's authentic when it really isn't. That's American culture, in my opinion. It's a lot of thievery. It's a lot of plagiarism that's going on. And we don't like to give people credit from where it comes from. Now, yeah, I'm gonna stop there for now. I'm gonna stop there.
There was definitely more to say, but I know why you probably stopped, because you can bring it up in another part of the conversation. That's exactly along the lines of how I view it. American culture is filled with clashes, filled with so much nuance and so many variables, and the idea that you can associate it with thievery, I think, is just commingled with all of the symbolism and all of the hypocrisy that permeates inside of that culture. I think there's a understanding of what it is to be American on paper, and I think there's an understanding of what it is to be American as existing. So yeah, it's filled with all of these different layers and things, and there's no clear cutness about it, but there is an understanding that so much has been compromised and so much has been taken and what is it, reappropriated and marketed in a different way. Symbolism plays a significant role. That's pretty much my response. Celeste, coming to you. What is American culture?
American culture, like I said, now I can say this specifically. Whatever African Americans, descendants of slaves, whatever we decide to do, that becomes American culture. But my dad made a valid point. Funny enough, we were in the hair store because he was like, I need some grease because he's bald for his head. He uses a specific type. And I walked into the hair
Haley,
store.
don't follow hugs. Don't ever put your parents' business out in the street like that. Don't ever look. Celeste, you ain't have to tell your pop's business like that.
Everybody know my dad is bald. My dad has literally been bald since 1997. It ain't no secret. But so we go into the hair store. He was like, okay, I got this hair grease. And I went in and I bought whatever I needed. And I brought some packs of braiding hair. And my dad looks at the clerk and he was like, He said, okay. He just looks at the clerk and the clerk starts chuckling. He was like, y'all make a lot of money doing this, don't y'all? And the clerk said, yeah. And they just started laughing. And my dad walks out and he said, it's funny. He said, I wonder how many times a day the hair store owner, who's an Asian lady, me and her know each other really well because I went to the same hair store since I was like 12. He started laughing. He said, he was like, how everybody but black people are making money off of black people. He was like, I wonder how many times a day they laugh at how much money they make off of how many black women go in there just to buy random things out of the hair store. And that pretty much to me sums up culture in America, and it sums up black culture. Black people start something. Somebody else learns how to monetize it and use it. And then it becomes mainstream. And now it's quote unquote American culture. Like I said, Kim Kardashian, when she started wearing wigs, black women have been wearing wigs for years, for decades, like literally since the 1920s. And when Kim Kardashian started wearing wigs, wigs no longer became ghetto. They no longer became a black thing.
So let me ask you this real quick, Celeste, before you leave the hair store.
I'm sick of you.
No, I mean, before you get out of there, there's a culture associated, I would say, with black women doing things to their hair that require entire stores dedicated to the things that they're doing to their hair. Yet the vast majority of those stores are, in fact, owned by people outside of the Black community. So, have they developed a culture associated with profiting from Black people? So, does their hair culture have just a different variable to it? Does that make sense? Because they know a lot about y'all hair.
Well, I'm not even gonna say necessarily know a lot. It's a fact of paying attention. Like, for instance, like I said earlier about African culture such as West African culture. And I will say that the Asian American population, you don't necessarily see them, excuse me, mimicking and copying black hair trends in such a way, but they learn how to perform them on black people. I would say the Asian culture in America, they just pay attention and adapt. I necessarily, yes, I wish the money went and stayed into the black community, but I don't necessarily think they're being culture vultures. I think they see a void and they feel it. But
I
I
think they're
will
being
say,
exploited. Would you agree with exploit? Because part
oh
of
no,
what
I
you're
agree with
saying
the
is,
exploitation because they can get a loan at a bank where black people can't. But I'm
well,
saying when it comes to white America, like they deliberately see it, take it, and make it their thing.
so exploitation is something I pay a lot of attention to. I'm often speaking of it because the exploitation is relentless, um, in terms of Black American experience, whether it was labor or whether it's the capital, the little capital that it's had. And it's not a villain in the play of this. It's just the opportunity exists, and as you just stated, the ability to open a business and to market things to people that are not your neighbors and uh, don't even see a return on any of their investment besides the hair they throw away after 3 or 4 months, because you can't reuse it. So, matter of
I
fact, that's
am.
a loss. That's a loss. That's a loss. So, anyway, I say all that to say there's a bit of exploitation in there, which I think is a part of American culture,
Oh,
exploitation. So,
exploitation
yeah,
definitely of black people is, but I was gonna say that's a for me. I was gonna say that's a whole different conversation on culture. For me, I'm thinking mainstream American culture, like what we see that's quote unquote popular.
yeah.
Remember, like I don't know if you guys have seen it, but to talk about the exploitation of America means we have to talk about America's racism and the history of it, and then how we get into slavery and how the American economy was essentially created off of the free labor of black people, which then goes into the further level of exploitation. But if you ask Nikki Haley right now about America's racist history and if racism ever existed in America or slavery, that never happened. So
She ain't got no
got
friends. Hey, look, let's not get too political, but we know she ain't got no friends. Um, Mary Carmen, coming to you, what is American culture to you, being that you are originally from another place? So, what is American culture to you?
I think there is a global idea of what America culture is. Um, and I don't mean to say to sound traditional, but it is the American dream where you can succeed, where you can have um, ownership of the land that you live in general terms, giving the opportunities of making equally for everybody without seeing, the culture in individual groups, but in general. And I think the wording, like again, you and I had that discussion. The wording is so vital because it truly is the culture is like ethnicity, because one of the things that have not been mentioned is the food or the music, the language. Uh, it's been a while for me to have worked in a corporate system, and I am, and I'm getting trained and a lot of information. But if we embrace truly, the culture of America, is whether they identify of whatever identity they, if they want to be a tree or a seed of a avocado or a seed of a mustard or a tree, or I mean, pretty much there's so much confusion of the identity of what a human being is capable to do on earth, like globally.
Yeah, yeah. So I love that you incorporated the whole idea that, if you get here, you can make it.
Right. You
That's
get
a big
here,
part about
there's
American culture.
opportunities, and you can,
Yes, yes.
own a house,
Hmm.
have a good career, have a good salary, have a good life, be progress in a nation where embraces that.
Hmm. Just work hard.
And
That's it.
that doesn't happen everywhere.
Mm-mm.
If
So
I, like a Latin American woman, goes to, I don't know, Pakistan, I mean, it's like, uh, um, or to other like nations of, like, South Africa or something like that. The reality is that is a bi-culture, in a way that you embrace the American dream, that you embrace the American culture, not of Kardashian. Listen, I am not going to spend 1/10 of my breath of speaking of all of that Kardashian family. Moving on, the American dream truly is an opportunity to make a change
so to that
globally.
point, yeah, which I'm glad that you elevated, and I thought that you might.
Language, food, music
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
makes that's what
You,
if I may say, the core of the heart of the culture.
you
Because if
coming
I
here
go
enhances our
to
culture.
one place,
Yeah,
I can identify with my culture, the American culture, the Black culture,
yeah.
the white culture, and in reality, what unites us is exactly that, the American dream.
So you come and bring aspects of a culture from outside, and it is absorbed and welcomed to a high degree here. That's the thing about the construct and concept of the melting pot. It's about other things when you look at it deeper, but it is also about this coming together of all of these different things. A restaurant that I really like, and I'll give them a shout out. I think we were hesitant to give shout outs of restaurants last time, but I'll give a shout out to Boricua Soul. Boricua Soul in Durham. Uh, it's a restaurant that fuses is it Caribbean? I get it all mixed up. South American food, I believe, and soul food. I think the owners are a couple that kind of bridge that gap, and they created a restaurant behind it. So that's kind of what America. Yeah, it's just this
And
big
I think,
mixture of
and I
things.
think that
Mhm.
what you just said right now is exactly what the rest of the panelists have been talking about: transition. There is a time where you have to combine, if you will, and come together to one point, because I mean, at the end, we all want the same thing.
That's it. So the next question should touch on that some. Kaylee, I'm coming to you real quick though. I think you have some really good input. So, what is American culture to you, Kaylee?
I really have no like idea what American culture is. I feel like it's not one set thing. It's just a bunch of cultures, maybe flipped or the same, and everyone's just, I guess, dealing with it at the same time. It's not some individual thing. It's just a bunch of things like put together.
So, I want to throw this aspect out there for our American culture conversation, and we'll get back to the other parts of this conversation. And Jay Dwayne, I don't know what you just put in there, but I'm not reading it. Taino, I'm familiar.
I was
Yeah,
just
I'm
telling you what it
familiar.
was. It's
Yeah, go
well,
ahead.
it's Puerto Rican and soul food.
Okay. Oh, Taino. Okay.
Yeah, I'll just
Barico,
put
Barico.
that
I
out
got
for
you.
you.
I got you. Appreciate it. Because I saw Taino. I'm familiar with that because of Lisette, who's if you can, sometimes you can trace your roots back to a very early stage. So Tahino, I'm familiar with that. But yeah, that mixture and that clashing of things that is American culture at the core, and I think that's a lot of why we're mentioning Black American culture inside of American culture, is because this idea not only of the American dream, but the elevated status of the term freedom that is very, very connected to being an American. It is very connected to American culture. All you guys have heard me say that all of that energy, all of that elevation, all of that becoming realized is on the backs of a specific group of people, and all of the ways that it uh, elevates and changes and goes this way and becomes important and critical to other groups' growth and elevation and visibility. That foundational aspect of how that growth and how that culture, because you got a culture plants, you got a culture growth. That culture growth takes place is literally on the backs of Black Americans who descend from that institution. That's critical. So maybe that's why so much of what Black Americans do is very visible and very connected, and very much in the realm of trend setting and everything else. So maybe there's a rhyme and a reason to that. This question, I want really quickly to go around and get some responses to. I think it kind of, in my opinion, it kind of leans towards what Kaylee just expressed, and I know we keep losing Mary Carmen, so I'm going to come to you first, Kaylee, to get around the space. Should culture be connected to communal enrichment? I know that sounds like an easy one, but I mean, should communal enrichment become the priority of culture, especially based on those definitions I read? What do you think, Kaylee?
Define communal enrichment.
To have it understood that in your community, in your sphere, in your sphere of influence, the understanding of culture is connected to our betterment, the communal betterment, the community's betterment, and the enrichment of the community. A lot of those definitions I read had, some of them had to do with education and prior, understanding what's important to the better outcomes. So does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I feel like, yeah, that should be the main focus, because I guess in my eyes, our culture is kind of like used against us all the time. And a lot of times we don't have the upper hand. So I feel that making that the main goal would push us along further than what we are now. I feel like a lot of our culture isn't really a culture to me, like in the sense of the people, because I feel like we aren't connected at all. It's like a lot of back and forth, and nobody's like as a union as one. To me, that doesn't really make it a culture. But I feel like that should be the main goal, since we can only help each other.
Like that. If we have true desire to get to the same place, then there should be an understanding associated with our culture being, our collective culture being something that moves us forward into a better place. I like that, Kaylee. I like the way you broke that down. Celeste, should culture be connected or prioritized for communal enrichment?
I definitely think it should be prioritized if everybody is going to benefit from it equally. And I also think that if we're going to use all culture for communal enrichment, then we need to leave mocking other people's cultures alone.
Interesting. So I'm not going. You can try to break it down in real quick because I want to get to the final question. But
Yeah.
is there an example you can give of mocking of cultures?
I mean, simply when what is it? When because I'm a black woman, I can only really use black experiences. But when black women we get braids or we wear wigs or we wear hair weaves and they're called ghetto or they're referred to as ghetto and they're seen as ghetto. But when a white woman walks in with pink and blue hair and it's teased out to look like the latest punk rock star, nobody flinches or thinks at it twice. Basically,
So
don't mock me for my culture when you accepted it from somebody else in a completely different manner.
I like that, and see, this is why we may have to revisit this topic in the future because of the nuance. I am a firm believer that if you like what you're wearing, hey, step like it and mean it. And if you have pink or blue hair, or if you have extensions all down your back, or if your butt's hanging out, or whatever the case may be, and people look at you, that's not what you were going for, because you're
Okay,
standing out.
let's your butt hanging out is not culture. Now you got the freedom to wear whatever you want whenever you want, but wearing the Hooters shorts outside Hooters, I'm even me as a woman who supports that type of freedom gonna look at you like, girl, your booty cheeks is out. Now I
But
might stare just like everybody else, but I'm gonna still be like, girl, your booty cheeks out.
Well, Shalita has some agreement with you. She said exactly, and white women wear wigs too. Yeah, I didn't look. If you can pull it off, put it on. That's what I say. Yeah, if you can pull it off, put it on. If you can, I wear my fedora sometimes, and I might have got some looks like who
And
this dude.
Felton be thinking he cute in that
I
fedora
I
too,
don't.
y'all. He's
I
sweat,
don't.
he's stepping.
I don't. I don't. I'm not a very confident man. So anyway, yeah. So
Jada Wayne, get your friend. Get your
Les,
friend.
you couldn't just let me have my moment, could you? All right. So
No, no.
coming to you, Jay, because I got one last question we're gonna run through the room with, but this is still the same question. Should culture be connected to communal environment or prioritized to communal enrichment? I'm sorry, communal enrichment.
To further clarify, kind of piggybacking off of Celeste, I think cultural appreciation should be solidified because that seems to be the part that we're all missing in DEI. It's just not the awareness of, it's the appreciation for. And I do agree because Black American culture is separate from American culture. We tend to be overlooked because the majority, in this case, even immigrants and even some native born who are non-Black receive all of the benefits that a lot of Blacks don't have accessibility to, even though we have a missability to. And I think that we keep missing that. And so there's a disconnect there. And so what ends up happening is a lot of Blacks, as they fight for rights, a lot of history is getting respoken, not necessarily rewritten. We know about the rewritten part, but it's because it's being respoken. We're missing key elements like rewriting things like AAVE. There should be no such thing as AAVE because these are real languages that are really spoken. But because people didn't recognize them, they lumped them together and first call them Ebonics, and they don't respect them as language. That's no different than hair and stuff like that. And I know both made mention of braids, but you and I in our generation, I remember Bo Derek was the first white woman that wore braids, and it wasn't cultural appropriation. It was like Bo Derek did her thing with it. It was her hair and stuff like that. Just like I remember Debbie from Blondie rapping first. I remember her as one of the first pioneer white women actually rapping and things like that. And it was an appreciation for Black culture, and they both gave reference. And I think those are the things that we're missing. And so as we continue to whitewash and fight for certain things, we are blotting out some of our knowledge of things, and we're not having those conversations because the fight is so consistent amongst Black American generations that we're not afforded the privilege to sit back on our porch and say, wow, this really feels good. I really enjoy this American pie, because we're always preparing it but can never eat it. So I'll leave it there.
No, that is wonderful. Because my final word on this question is going exactly where you just went, and even more so to the point of the prioritization of understanding that when we are talking about culture in the way that it's flashed and placed in front of our faces for entertainment purposes. One of the critical things that I like to make sure I elevate, especially when we're talking about Black American culture, is my Black American culture consists primarily of resistance, of justice seeking, of speaking truth to power, of understanding what liberty really is, perpetually remaining steadfast against that headwind that keeps trying to push you back. That is the culture that I embrace that is associated with Black Americanism. It's not materialism.
I
It's
agree
not
with you.
when I hear the culture that it motivates me to embrace anything. I can't stand how fascinated we become with validation through things. What's in here? What's your character like? What's your value system like? Uh, I know those that came before are the ones that I prioritize to dictate how I view culture. So I'll say this lastly, and Jay, I'll let you get that word, and then I'm gonna come back around the space with one last question. I was watching some little clip, and it was 85 South Boys, something I just happened to scroll across. They're not funny, and I'll tell them to their face. They're not. And saying the N-word a lot is not even remotely anything that's gonna get a giggle or snicker out of me. I might be in the minority, so what? But one of the young men was looking at the other young man, and his hair was kind of up, and he said, "Oh man, you looking like what's the guy name? And yeah, yo, Frederick Douglass looking." So I made a comment on that post that was something associated with you're having fun with somebody who prioritized your humanity, and is part of the reason you're able to have this much fun. But you're having fun in a way that is kind of disturbing, much like all of the MLK posts that have come out every year where you see he's got gold teeth or he's got Jordans on. This is kind of sick, and it's disturbing. So that's not culture to me. That's conjecture, and it's very much defeatist, and it plays a dangerous game. So that's my serious note for tonight. That was in me to say, and I wanted to get that on out there to the masses. We can't keep playing with the Black American culture. We have to actually keep culturing it. We gotta make it more firm and less vulnerable to that theft that Celeste was talking about. So want to go around the space in just a second. Jay, you had a couple of words you want to say before I did that?
No, I can wait. You want me to just say it and then you go around? I agree with you. I think that the lack of diversity and understanding culture, like my cultural experience as a Black American man, is often felt unseen, unacknowledged, unheard, but expected to show up and be obedient to everybody else, but not being seen as an individual. I think that is coupled with my Black American experience, where things that make us Black are not celebrated as much as we would like for it to be celebrated. And I do agree. I do think that we take we keep laughing from crying a little too far, that sometimes we make a caricature out of our pioneers. But I do think that we also should create a space where we can poke fun, have fun, but also have real conversations. Just like I said in a symposium where we talked about the great things of Frederick Douglass, but we also talked about the mishaps that he did, like abusing women and stuff like that too. So those are two dynamics that we can talk about. No different than when the American culture shrouded around Gail when Snoop called her a B for saying something about Kobe's past, and was like, well, Kobe did rape the girl and then paid her off and then embarrassed her and made her look crazy. I mean, I'm just saying. But the thing about it is, no, we have a problem where we do highlight things that are animalistic, and we feel like just because a person is celebrated, we can't talk about the ugly side of them. Like, I can watch the Cosby Show, and Bill Cosby's still wrong for drugging women. I mean, I'm just saying, he still was wrong, but I can still celebrate the successes that he did. But I can also say, shame on you for some of the other things. And I think that we need to stop living in black and white and live in gray and realize that people are fluid and we can still celebrate victories when appropriate, but we also can highlight the ugly side, but we also can laugh to get through those transitions and realize everybody has a variation and we won't be all the same. The one thing that has been consistent in Black culture is we're going to survive regardless of what happens to us.
Survival's key. I think
Yeah.
real quick, just a quick response. The thing that you are mentioning is just out of whack to me. We've prioritized the laughter, whether that was intentional or what. We got to rebalance that because everybody likes satire, but we've accelerated and blown up some aspects and lessened others. And the lessening of others is what I have a tremendous issue with, and I think it's to our detriment. Every dollar that you make doesn't have to be steeped in some exploitativeness of the people you claim to love. So with that being said, I'm looking to make this a nice little ending note. So I'm gonna go around the space. And Celeste, I know you're not on camera, but hopefully Kaylee and myself maybe can get this as some type of piece of an introduction, because I'm going to ask the question, Celeste, what is the culture of grown folks business? And Kaylee, you don't have to answer. I'll say that out loud because I know you're in the space, but you're here. But I'm gonna come to you. You can give the best answer you can, but don't feel obligated to be as robust as these two may be, because they've been coming here for quite a while. So Celeste, what is the culture of grown folks business?
Oh gosh, the culture of
Real
grown
quick, real
folks.
quick.
I know the culture of grown folks business is freedom and it's friendship. It's diversity in conversation, it's diversity amongst peers, diversity amongst thought processes. Grown folks business is a political space, a friendship space, an academic space. It's I don't even I don't even know how to describe it, but it's a space where your thoughts can be as free as the interpretation through which you're going to give them and receive them.
Love it. Jay Dwayne, what is the culture of grown folks business?
Whew. That's a hard one. Forced, not forced, but encouraged. I mean, I guess I want to go with cultured. Curated. Let's go with curated. A curation of um thought, action, discipline, and what it is that we're supposed to do or what we are about. Authenticity. A curation of authenticity and intellectual thought.
Y'all making me feel great and special. Kaylee, you gonna keep that going? What's the culture of grown folk business in your limited interaction? If you have a response, what's the culture of grown folks business?
Okay. um, I would say the culture of grown folks business is to sit and have the opportunity to speak freely and to have those hard conversations, but to also embrace it one another in, like, I would say, a loving and free environment.
Well said. Kaylee, you warm my heart, and I appreciate you being able to participate tonight. I'll just say the culture of grown folks business to me simply is, all are welcome, but you have to be vulnerable. You have to have some integrity, and you have to appreciate your fellow man to truly get the most out of this space, which is grown folks business. Thank you all. Y'all have a wonderful night. It's always a pleasure. I know we make it happen no matter what, and it's always a dance that I want to continue. So I hope the music never stops. Y'all have a wonderful night. Take care. Stay warm out there.
Night, everyone. Jay, tell the kids good night. Give them kisses for me.